Oh boy. Bryce Huff is so gone. We'll talk about why based on his latest message to the team. Let's roll. Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field, gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
What's poppin', everybody? Paul Esden Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your audio podcasts. Let me just be blunt. We do an episode every day. The Bryce Huff story has changed dramatically for me for the offseason. I use that in quotations for our audio-only listeners because the offseason's only been like a week and a half. Despite that, my kind of belief in the Bryce Huff thing has just changed. So at the beginning of the offseason, right? So again, a week and a half ago, I'm like, oh boy, the Jets are totally keeping Bryce Huff. They're going to sign him to a long-term deal. So like over the last couple of weeks, my opinion has kept changing. Like I'm like, oh yeah, they are definitely keeping him. And then I'm like, well, at least they'll use the franchise tag, right? So even if they, to retain him so they could trade him potentially, he might just be gone. And what we're going to play you is a clip. So I'll explain it first, and then we'll play the clip. So the Jets media team, right? So Ethan Greenberg, Caroline Hendershot, Eric Allen, the group of Jets team reporters, as exit interviews were happening between the players in the front office, they got all the other players. So like they got everybody, but they interviewed all these players and did these like 5 to 10 minute interviews with every player. And for content. So as the offseason's going along, they're going to keep kind of sprinkling in some of these interviews they did. Yesterday was one of the interviews that they had done at the end of the season with Bryce Huff, and they released it yesterday for the first time for all of us to consume. Ethan Greenberg asked Bryce Huff, you're going to hear the question and answer here. He asked him about his future with the Jets. You will hear both the question and answer. I'll let you guys be the judge, and then I will explain how I feel about it. So here you go. Here's the clip. Again, this is Ethan Greenberg and Jets pass rusher. Let's roll.
After the Patriots game, you were asked about your future. Obviously, you have an expiring contract. You said that there would be no hometown discount, but what would it mean to you to continue your career where you started it?
It would be cool, but like I said before, I just got to do what's best for me and my family. At the end of the day, I worked really hard with these guys here at this organization. Everybody's goal is to win and hopefully get paid in the process. So that's what I'm looking to do this offseason.
I just have to give my opinion. He gone. I mean, he is so gone. Absolutely gone. Let's go through that. So what did you just see? What was that clip? Okay. Ethan Greenberg gave the greatest softball in history to Bryce Huff. And again, I'm not blaming Bryce Huff. Hey, go get your money. You want to go get your money? Okay, God bless. It's your money, not mine. But Ethan Greenberg tossed, you're doing like a baseball game or a softball game or something. The pitcher goes, let's give this one to him. And they go, huh, and then just kind of float the ball over to him so he could crack a home run. That's what Ethan did. He said, I know you said there's no hometown discount, but let's put that aside for a second. What would it mean to stay with the team that you started your career with as an undrafted free agent? And what Bryce Huff could have done, what he could have done, is he could have said, you know what, you're right. I would love to stay here. This is where my career started. They gave me my first chance. He could have thrown rose petals at the Jets team. He could have thrown rose petals at the location, thrown petals at his teammate. He could have done anything. That question was qualified with the softball nature, putting the hometown discount thing aside, putting all that aside on what you will actually do this offseason. What would it mean to you, though, if somehow the moons and stars align and you end up signing here, like staying here with the Jets? That was the ultimate softball. And I'm not blaming Ethan for the question either. It's a perfect softball. Bryce Huff could say, yeah, the Jets are awesome. Yeah, the fans are awesome. Anything could have been in there. And instead, Bryce Huff reiterated the first point that Ethan Greenberg started his question with. And he simply said this. He simply said, yeah, that would be cool, but it was like 4 words in before reiterating the fact, hey, man, I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to do what's best for my family. My opinion, he's gone. He's gone. And again, I don't blame him. Bryce Huff, you want to get your own money? Get it, pal. Get it. Because, and again, I don't want anyone crying rivers for this guy. But from a football perspective, football, not like I'm listening to the Board Green show. I'm a plumber. I don't make anywhere near as much money as Bryce Huff. I get it. I'm not talking about you. I'm a radio show host. I'm not swimming in Benjamins over here either. But I just want to put it in football perspective. Bryce Huff signed as an undrafted free agent for about $2-3 million for 3 years. That's the total for the entire time. That runs out. Last year, he's a restricted free agent. That's $4.3 million. Very solid upgrade boost pay-wise. He was a restricted free agent. The Jets put a second-round restricted free agent tender, which means if any team would have signed him last year straight up, they would have had to give up a second-round pick to the Jets. No one did. So he signs his tender. That's 1 year for $4.3 million. Now, for the first time in his career, he's scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent. That means he's headed to the open market, which means for the first time, he could truly, quote unquote, maximize his value. So in Bryce Huff's mind, he's like, I've been taking a discount since I came into this league as I was developing. This is what he's saying. So now he will have a chance to truly maximize the market. And like I said, my opinion has changed throughout this entire process. During the season, right, you have a double-digit sack pass rusher who is an undrafted free agent. The Jets, this is a homegrown talent by every definition of the word at a premium position. For all the reasons, I wanted the Jets to re-sign Bryce Huff. I said, you got to bring this guy back. He's young. And I've said it before that, quite frankly, from my opinion, that I'd want him back and that I want him to be a key piece and that he would be robbed if he never gets to play with Aaron Rodgers because we don't know how much higher his sack production could have been. That's my robbery if he ends up not coming back. And I'll explain. I see a lot of people talking about, can we still tag him? Yes, we still can tag him. But you guys can read the article. It's a brand new article from this morning in the YouTube description down below. Based on the latest details, a tag is not happening. Okay. My opinion was you have to tag him no matter what. If you wanted to keep him or you didn't want to keep him. Why? Because you want control of the future. You can either tag and trade or do any of these things. And I explained in an episode earlier this week how a tag and trade can work. There's been several, 5 as a matter of fact, in the last 5 years. So there's a history, there's a precedence for it. However, Rich Cimini of ESPN, and I have the quotes in the article below, would be, quote-unquote, very surprised if the Jets tag Bryce Huff. He does not believe it's going to happen. He does not believe that. He said that straight up on his podcast. He is an insider who's covered the team for 30 years. While some of you guys, I get, don't value the opinion of Rich Cimini in the same way, I 100% value the opinion of Rich Cimini. If he doesn't believe they're going to tag him, he's not just lollygagging his opinion. I view that as informed opinion, informed speculation, if you will, based on his happenings around the team. He says, hey, this is my take based on everything I'm hearing and everything he's hearing. The Jets are not going to tag him. That is $23 million on a 1-year deal for Bryce Huff. And even in the temporary sense to trade him, which is, again, what I would do. This is my plan. Okay. And I've said it before earlier the week, but I'll reiterate it in a much quicker way. if I'm the Jets and I realize what I just watched on that video, that there is no way in hell that Bryce Huff is coming back unless I tag him. And even if I tag him, again, that would restrict the cap with $23 million on a 1-year deal. So, are you paying Bryce Huff $23 million? You got to ask yourself that question on a 1-year deal. But if you're not, which again is what old Rich Cimini is saying, then this is what I would do. I'm like, okay, I am Joe Douglas. I am talking to people at the Senior Bowl, where Jeff Ulbrich, shout out to him, he's the head coach of the national team at the Senior Bowl. We'll talk more about that in a future episode, I'm sure. But I'm talking to people at the Senior Bowl. I'm talking to people at the NFL Combine. I'm talking to people everywhere to gauge interest. Hey, would you guys be interested in a tag and trade? Oh, you would. Work out all the details ahead of time, because the moment you place the franchise tag on Bryce Huff, whether he signs it or not, you owe him the $23 million. So you have to have that money available. You can't just say, oh, when you sign it, we'll have the $23 million ready. You need to have it ready immediately. That's part of the NFL rules. So what I would do if I'm Joe Douglas is work out a trade, all the details ahead of time, and then allow whatever team I might be trading him to, the Falcons, I'm making it up, but the Falcons, hey, you can negotiate a long-term deal with him and his agent. Go ahead. And then once they work all that out, let's do a trade. Boom, boom, handshake. And then it's a tag to move him, because you have to tag him to trade him, because the Jets don't have contractual control of him at this moment in time. But then I'd tag and trade him, and I'd move him. But even that, according to Rich Cimini, again, we'll have to get Rich on the show, and I'm going to have to present that possibility and see what he says. It doesn't sound like they're going to tag him. It sounds like the Jets are about to lose Bryce Huff for a hot bag of nothing. For a hot friggin' bag of nothing. Because Rich Cimini said if Bryce Huff gets the open market, he gone, because the money's just going to get higher. It's a bidding war, basically, for where he's going to go. And what a damn shame. What an absolute damn shame that the Jets are going to lose this guy. And I get it. There's some of you in here who are bringing up Will McDonald. We should have known at that moment that the Bryce Huff thing was over. We absolutely should have known right in that moment that the Bryce Huff thing was over, because when Bryce Huff inevitably leaves, Will McDonald's taken the rock. And of course he is. He's the 15th overall pick. The Jets invested a first-round draft choice in Will McDonald. Of course he's taking the role from Bryce Huff, and they're hoping he could be just as good, if not better. And they obviously believe that, obviously. And then he's going to be hopeful your Jermaine Johnson leap guy for the New York Jets. That's the plan. And I'm going to be honest, I much would have rather preferred the Jets keep Bryce Huff and then use that 15th overall pick on something else. And again, we'll have another video on that, the Joe Douglas draft thing. Oh yeah, I got that in my notes over here, so I'll save that for a future episode. We'll see when I'm able to plug that in, but I'd keep Bryce Huff and then use that on another pick. So if you used it on an offensive tackle or wide receiver, now you're really set. You can pay Bryce Huff and then get ready for some of those other things. But yeah, that's it. So after watching that video, I am solely convinced his latest message is he's leaving the Jets. And like I said, good for him. He's going to get his money. And I'm not blaming him. When I say he gone, like Magic Johnson, the gif, I'm not going to be here. Like Bryce Huff ain't going to be here. He's not. I hope it's January, right? Like things can change. Bryce Huff, he could have, and let me float this as a possibility. Bryce Huff could have met with his agent in the middle of the season, and the agent tells Bryce, I don't care if you love the Jets with everything in your being. Every time you speak in front of the media, anytime you speak, this is a game, and I want you to continue to pound the table about the money and the opportunity and all of that. I don't care if you really love the Jets. You just got to keep pounding it. That's part of the game. Maybe that really happened. Maybe Bryce Huff and his agent did have that conversation. And then as Bryce Huff goes in front of it, money, and saying, hey, Jets, no hometown discount. Like you got to pay me, even if he really wants to be with the Jets. So maybe it's a ploy. Maybe it's an absolute ploy. But to me, I've interviewed Bryce Huff once, I believe, on this show, at least once. And he seems like a straight shooter. He just kind of tells it as it is. So from that experience, I feel like Bryce Huff is just keeping it honest. Hey, man, no hometown discount. I'm trying to get the most money I could possibly get. Straight up. And I want a lot of reps. He also said that to Rich Cimini in a one-on-one interview. He said, yeah, I want more reps. I want to maximize my potential and my earnings. The earnings are obvious, getting as much money as he can get. the potential is playing more, and he's not going to play more with the Jets. Even Quinnen Williams, I think I floated the snap percentage stat. He played like 69% of the snaps this year. If Quinnen is playing 69% of the snaps, he is the highest contract in Jets history. How many are you going to get, pal? It's just the harsh reality of what it is. So right now, the Jets couldn't tag and trade Bryce Huff if they wanted to from a financial perspective. They got to make a lot of moves that would have to create that cap space, even temporarily, to make the trade. But again, to me, I'd try to trade him to get assets that help now. Because if you let Bryce Huff walk out the door this offseason as an unrestricted free agent, the best the Jets can hope for is a comp pick in the future. It will not help now. You lose your best pass rusher from statistical perspective this season at 10 sacks. No one else was double digit. You lose your best pass rusher heading into your win now season for a future comp pick. What the hell? So that's a hard sell job for the win now train. Toot, all aboard. Well, yeah, we just lost our best pass rusher, but hey, we'll get a 3rd round pick in 2025. So again, in my opinion, you got to do whatever you can to tag and trade his ass and get the most value you can, which I still believe you could get a 2nd round pick. That's what I believe. And the Jets don't have a 2nd round pick. So get a 2nd round pick as a part of the package, and you feel a little bit better about losing Bryce Huff ultimately. So yeah, you guys can come up with your own opinions after watching that video. As soon as I saw that, because again, I comb through as much content as possible so you guys can have all these kinds of shows and stuff. And I listened to that, and I paused the video, and I said, he gone. I said it out loud. There was no one else in the room, but I just went, he gone. That couldn't have been more clear from that clip. And we'll see if I'm right or wrong. Again, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm not reading the tea leaves properly. I just can only give my opinion and be honest with you guys. When I watch it, I'm like, oh boy, here's how I feel. This is the Boy Green Daily Show. Boom. That's how I feel about it. So hopefully I'm wrong and they do tag and trade him, but it does not feel good. All right, let's go through some of your comments here. Good morning, everybody. Greg says losing Huff will be a big loss. Yeah, again, they better have their first off. Will McDonald better start eating his Wheaties. He needs some more meat on the bone. Number 1, and number 2, they better be right about his projection. Like it work with Jermaine Johnson, but they're going to see if. You better hope that Will McDonald makes that leap, because if he doesn't, then the Jets pass rush gets worse. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Phil, sign and trade for at least a 2nd. That's what I'd like to see. I think it was, I'm trying to think, maybe it was Randy Mueller as when we get away, a 2nd and a 5th or something. Like someone said that. I can't remember. Oh yeah, there's Joe Caparosa of Badlands. Excuse me. He said that he believes the Jets will get a 2nd and a conditional 5th. Sign me up. Johnny, Huff is playing cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bills, y'all. Again, I can't blame him. Hey, all about it. Content creator starting on time. Nice. Yep. Every day at 7:30, baby. Join the crew, David. Appreciate you. Andrew, don't want him to leave in a huff. Oh yeah. It seems like his career here is going to be a huff and a puff. Jared B., as I kind of prognosticated, he's doing what his agents probably told him. Maybe, or he's being straight up, which again, in my experience with interviews with him, he's been a straight shooter. So maybe he's just being incredibly honest. But boy, it just seemed like he had a softball question opportunity from Ethan Greenberg to throw flowers at the Jets, and he refused to do so. Which again, I'm not blaming him. Some people are getting angry at him. I'm like, you don't have to get angry at him. Like he was here for 4 years, 3 years of the undrafted free agent contract, plus the restricted free agent tender. I'm not blaming Bryce. Hey man, go get your money, pal. I'm just reading the room. That's my job, is to watch this content, read it, and then basically be a translator to you guys based on what I see. So maybe it is H&T's, but boy, I have a feeling it's real. Let's see. Sergeant CVO believes he's going to go to a new system end up like Jamal Adams. I hope not. I'm rooting for Bryce. I want him to continue to have success. He was a great story, an undrafted free agent that the Jets were able to develop. They've had a lot of those waiver wire claims like JFM, waiver wire claims like Quincy Williams. They've done a really good job from a defensive development standpoint. Phil sounds like he's not happy with something inside the Jets, maybe because he wants to play full time. That's what he seemed to suggest to Rich Cimini. So I think it is a system problem plus the money. I think it's both. I think he does want to maximize potential because he's probably said to himself, wow, I got 10 sacks for like 40% of the snaps. If a team actually played me full Monty here, who knows what I could get? I'm sure that's what he's saying, which would obviously increase the money quotient. The more sacks you could get, the more money you could get. So, a lot of don't blame him. He's sick of losing. Maybe that's a part of it too. I haven't heard that from any of his interviews, but I'm sure he would rather not lose. Let's see. On YouTube, Avatar, roster mismanagement once again by this moronic regime. A 25-year-old pass rusher doesn't grow on trees, yet poof, he gone. Yeah, I do believe he is. NY Jets FL. He is a part-time player, and we are overreacting. He had 10 sacks. Led the team. I don't think it's an overreaction. If he was one of those guys that we talk up, that's a 4.5 to 5.5 sack guy, and we were just rallying around this guy that we all root for, maybe I could dance with you. But a guy who led the team in sacks and he's 25 years old and he's about to get the freaking bag, I don't think we're overreacting. No, I do not. He's not an every down player based on how the Jets have played him, but he wants to prove that he is. He believes that he has solid run defense from his college days at Memphis. So it will be a prove it situation if that's what he really wants to prove and he goes somewhere. And boy, will the Jets look dumb if he goes to a place and he's an every down player and plus he has the sack potential. The Jets will look really dumb for having that inside their building and not believing that he could truly evolve into a 3-down player. That would look really, really bad. Let's see. This is a fair point by Jared B. I think he's a luxury, and we not on the luxury part, but we need to switch money to the other side of the ball. I think that is the message ultimately by the New York Jets this offseason, that the draft assets and free agents assets, like the defense is pretty good. They're going to need a few rotation of deck chairs. They're going to need to figure out the safety thing. There's 3 of their safeties are set to be free agents in March. So you got to figure out who's coming back or who's coming in or who's new. The defensive tackle room, Al Woods, Quentin Jefferson, you got to figure out that. But for the most part, it's all offense this offseason, and maybe that reinvestment or reallocation of resources will help the team. Phil says, if he leaves and we don't get at least second this year, it's a disappointment. The only way they could get a second is with a franchise tag. There's no restricted free agent tenders. There's nothing. The only thing they could do is some level of the franchise tag to keep him, if they're going to keep him. Oof, that would be brutal. NY Jets FL, Huff probably going to Miami or Buffalo like all of our players go. Well, I bet you won't be saying we're overreacting if he goes to Buffalo and Miami, sacking the Jets, 1,000 times a year. I bet. That's for sure. Let's see. Let's see. Miami's going to have huge cap problems. Okay. No state income tax, sure. We will see. I don't know. It's hard to speculate on teams at this point. But when we get closer to free agency, that'll be a better place for me to understand where the possible landing spots are for Huff. But let's just be honest. 25 years old, pass rusher. Every team should be interested in a young player, premium position coming off a career year. Again, to me, he's going to get paid. And my projection here for his pay is I believe he won't get franchise tag money. That's $23 million a year. If he gets tagged, I guess he gets franchise money. But I mean, if he just hits the open market and he's like in the mix with teams, I project Bryce Huff to get somewhere between the 16.5, 17 million to like 19 million range. And then there's a bidding war, right? So Carl also got 15 million per on the open market. And he never had a double-digit sack season. Bryce Huff did have a double-digit sack season, plus all the analytics. He's number 1 in pressure rate and all these other stats. He's like all top max, okay? So you got to give a market increase on the pass rusher position, plus his accolades. So I would say probably in that 17, 18, 19 million per year range on a 3 or 4 year deal. That's my guess. We'll see if I'm right in a couple of months here. Dice Glida. We can't begrudge the man. He's in a position to choose where he wants to work and live. Case closed. I'm sure a lot of other players wish they hit free agency with his agent stats. I bet they do. I bet they do. Very nice job by Huff in a contract year. People still asking for the tag and trade. We'll see what happens. It doesn't seem like it. Yeah, that's a good point by Avatal here. For 2 years, this regime had a chance to up his money and play the waiting game. And when Lawson wasn't fully cut before last season, he knew how far it's gone. The organization is dumber every day. Yeah, Carl Lawson, if they would have cut him, they would have saved $15 million against the cap. But instead, the Jets decided to bring him back and give him like $9 or $12 million fully guaranteed. And then the rest incentives. So they brought him back and just guaranteed like, I think it was 75% of his contract that was previously no non-guaranteed money. Boy. And then he ended up not having a sack this year. Brutal Joe Douglas restructure. That was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. That is brutal. Greg says the Jets always screw themselves in these situations. To Avatal, to piss away an asset like this and wait for a 2025 third comp pick is why this current regime is on borrowed time. Yeah, they're going to have to get pretty creative, I would imagine, to dip into future assets, whether that's cap or draft picks, to try to figure that out. Yeah, Phil says, I've seen many interviews with players. He doesn't look happy, and I don't think he's playing the game. I'd be shocked if he's back with us. I don't know about the happy factor. Again, that's kind of who Bryce Huff is. He's not as animated as me. He was answering every question throughout the entire interview like that. So I don't know if I would draw something from the emotional state of it, but the straight up state of just like he had a chance, like I said, to throw rose petals and did not. That to me was that was clear. Kelly said, I just got here, but honestly, it doesn't sound like anything other than he wants to get paid. Rightfully so, and it's up to the Jets to pay him, and they should. Yeah, you guys can go rewind the video if you're watching live, go check out the clip, or go to my Twitter account. It's also linked in the article down below in the YouTube description if that's easier. Whatever the easier path is for you guys to check out the video in case you missed it. I know people come in and out of the show, but you guys can check the Bryce Huff. Long story short, he did an interview that just dropped yesterday. A little 5-7 minute interview with a Jets team reporter, Ethan Greenberg, and he was asked about, staying here with the Jets, and he had quite an answer. That's all I'll say, and I'll allow you guys to interpret it as you will. So feel free to check it out. Like I said, full column down below with that video link in there if you guys want to see it. The only other option I could see, and I don't know how realistic this is maybe the Jets trade JFM and use some of that money to open up the franchise tag to either keep Bryce Huff on a long-term deal or trade him. That's possible, maybe, but I think the Jets love JFM, so I would be surprised with that. So again, I just feel like what you got to do is tag and trade to maximize value. Matthias, what a great question. Will McDonald be better than Huff? The Jets believe so. I will tell you that. Their coaching staff believes so. And everything they're putting out, they believe he could be a superstar. And you know what? Based on their development history, I got to give them a tip of the cap. I mean, think about the guys. Quincy Williams, an all-pro. Bryce Huff, a double-digit sack pass rusher. I mean, their ability to develop talent. And Jermaine Johnson, he went from 2.5 sacks to exploding. He should have had more. There's a couple of sacks he had that didn't count this year for whatever reason. So, yeah, they deserve the benefit of the doubt from a defensive development standpoint. They absolutely do. So can he be better than Huff? We'll see. We'll see. They're similar in the way that they're not like, I always evaluate the Jets pass rushers as a baseball pitcher. And a baseball pitcher has a lot of different pitches he could go to, a curveball, a fastball, all these different things in the arsenal. Will McDonald provide something a little bit different in the arsenal than some of the other pass rushers on the team? With he's Gumby-like, he's wiggly. He's dynamic, athletic. Obviously, he was jumping over cars as part of the pre-draft hype. So can he be better? God, the Jets believe he can be, and they better be right, because if they're not, that's going to hurt the Jets pass rush next year. Let's see. Is the sign and trade out of the scenario? No, to repeat again, it is not. And I know I'm catching up on some of these comments. Sign and trade is not out of the question. It's still possible, but all the insiders are telling me it is unlikely. Antoine Staley of the New York Daily News just said it's unlikely he gets tagged. Rich Cimini said he would be very surprised if he gets tagged. Not even tagged and traded, like tagged in general. So when I'm hearing multiple Jets team insiders that cover the team for their profession saying they would be flabbergasted, basically, if Bryce Huff gets tagged, that changes my opinion on, I thought it was a no-brainer. Of course you got to tag him so you can trade him and control the narrative, but apparently not. So again, we'll see. Maybe all the insiders are wrong. That's possible, I guess, but boy, the more these people who, again, are paid to cover the team say this, it changes my opinion. That's for sure. Okay. And some people just want to keep him straight up, which, again, Rich Cimini did say the Jets will try like hell to keep him long term, but let's be honest with ourselves. Honestly. Okay. If you're Bryce Huff, based on, and by the way, based on that clip from earlier, or any clip, by the way, from the end of season, no hometown discount, why in God's green earth would Bryce Huff, the Jets, approach him and say, hey, man, we want to sign you long term? He's like, okay. Get in line in free agency. They're like, no. We want to sign you ahead of that. Okay. What's your number? Like, insert. All right. I'll let you know. Like, there's no number that Bryce Huff get put on the table outside of an incredible overpay. Like, the franchise tag for like 5 years, right? Outside of that number, which ain't coming from Joe Douglas, Bryce Huff benefits zero, zip and pip, to sign with the Jets ahead of free agency because he has the power. If the Jets don't franchise tag him, he's on the open market and he will be in an open bidding war with 32 teams. Why would he bid against himself and say, yeah, Jets, here's the number. You get to that, we'll sign. Again, I hope the Jets do. Maybe they wave some magic and they're able to sign him. I just feel like he's gone. And there's no way that if I'm Bryce Huff, and I've been talking about how important money is to me, that I'm going to sign ahead of the open market and give up the opportunity to go to free agency. Not happening. That's just not realistic in my mind. He is 100% touching the open market, again, unless the Jets tag him. And based on all the insiders cover the team, that ain't happening. So, yeah, this is a tough one. That's for sure. You can't have enough pass rushers, as Frank says on YouTube. Absolutely. Matthias, do I want to pay this guy over $23 million? Absolutely not. I do not want to pay him over $23 million. I told you guys the price tag I would do. But again, it is for the ability to trade him. It's not more on the other stuff. Let's see. Perhaps. Again, Mitch Staff says this on YouTube. How can you pay a part-time player $17 million when you'll need every nickel to get offensive linemen? So maybe, again, that is the reallocation of resources on the offensive side of the ball. Well, when Rich Cimini said something surprising is coming, he said a surprising cut or two. So let's see if he's right. Is that CJ Mosley? Is that Lakin? Again, we did another video on that. You guys can go check it out. And then he'd also said he'd be surprised they tag Huff. Again, maybe he's wrong, but I don't know, guys. Let's see. What if we tag and trade him to the Raiders and it's him and Max Crosby? I heard from a capologist that the new CBA says the Jets cannot tag and trade him for players. It can only be picks. So the Devontae Adams trade is now null and void, and the Max Crosby or any other trade are now null and void, apparently. It can only be for draft picks. All right, that's it. That'll wrap up the show, everybody. But I wanted to give you guys the latest on the Bryce Huff situation from that interview yesterday. Boy, it feels like it's over. He gone. I'll let you guys judge it for your own. Like I said, the link to the clip, if you guys missed it live during the show, you guys can rewatch it in the article down below in the YouTube description. You guys can let us know what you think. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I'm just telling you that's how I feel about it. After watching that clip, I paused the clip and went, he is gonzo. So that's what I believe. All right, everybody, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We're getting closer and closer to 6,000 subs. We're about 50 people away on YouTube. So if you guys can tell a friend and hop on that, we'd really appreciate it. So feel free to do that. And we'll be here the next couple of days with a couple of fun guests here on Boy Green Daily. Plus, guys, later today, 3 o'clock, we're going to predict which veteran running back will sign with the Jets as the new RB2 behind Breece Hall. That's coming up at 3 o'clock. We'll be back live again for Boy Green Meets Woody. I hope you guys can check that out. It's going to be fun. We're going to assess the running back position. Again, we're doing this every Tuesday and Thursday, assessing every position on the Jets roster, who are set to be free agents, who's coming back, who's leaving, who's joining the crew. Hope you guys can check all that out. Again, that's coming up at 3 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. Peace out. Enjoy your Thursday.